All right, let's talk about getting evicted because we're getting evicted from here pretty soon. Now, I have been ready to leave since July, and the only reason I have stayed, well, it's never easy to just leave your comfort zone, you know what I mean? But also, I, I feel like, the mechanic needs help and occasionally and stuff, so he kind of wants me to stay, and I am I just don't really, I didn't really feel right just upping and leaving. Oh, the other thing is I'd like him to take another look at my car and just before I leave make sure everything's as good as it can be, you know what I mean? But so I was tempted to leave a couple of days ago because it is a wreck over here, but I'm gonna help him move all the stuff around. It's, I haven't been responding to any comments much on anything lately because I've been helping him clear this place out. There's a lot of, it's a wreck in there, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna help with that, and then I'll be on my way. But, I've been thinking about evictions lately, and I can tell he's been here for like 15 years, and he hasn't lived the destabilized life that I've lived. So this is like nothing to me, but I can tell he's kind of, just super stressed out about it, and I hate to see people, being just that stressed out. Here's the thing. This is another one of the things, in the modern world, one of these unacceptable things that we just have been trained to accept. And that is being forced out of your home. So that is completely abnormal. That is completely illegal in God's eyes. That's, according to God's laws, no one has a right to push you out of your home, ever. So, we in the modern world, we are brainwashed and socially engineered to accept things that are unacceptable by all the laws of nature. So, realistically, let's say a couple thousand years ago, the only way you would be forced out of your home is if you chose to leave it for a different place, or if you chose to be like a nomad and travel around, or if you were conquered and they took everything from you. That's the only way. There's no other way it could happen. Now, in the modern world, we're always on the verge of that happening. In my opinion, if you're renting, you are almost homeless. You don't know, you don't have no home. You're paying someone else to stay in the home that they own. None of this shit is normal. So, in my opinion, renting is one step away from being homeless. That's my opinion. A lot of people, well, here's the thing. I think for most people, their biggest fear is losing their home and being forced to go restart somewhere else. But in the modern world, we're all on the verge of doing that. Even the people who own their home they still got to pay this monthly fee. No one owns anything realistically. You're paying monthly for everything. And as we've found out recently, all our tax dollars have been sent to other countries to, if you want to know what's really going on, look up Ian Carroll. He's on Twitter, he's on Instagram, he's on Facebook, probably on YouTube, but I watch him on Instagram mostly. But Ian Carroll, or Cancel Ian Carroll, and look at the latest video he made about that USAID. I mean, there's companies that aren't even real that have been getting billions of dollars to do who knows what they're doing with it. But I can tell you one thing, they're not doing any legitimate business with it. Anyways, that's not what this video is about. But as we've found out, we've all been getting, all the resources have been taken from you your whole life, and they've been doing crazy shit with it, and it's all being exposed now. And they've got the left so brainwashed that they're like, they act like this is a bad thing. Dude, all these hidden financial transactions that the government has been doing are being exposed. How could you have a problem with that? How could you be so subverted to have that is insane to me. But anyways, that's not what this video is about. But really, it's a part of it, because we're all getting robbed, and I'm sick of it. But so, and I was thinking the other night, so I sat there and counted the other night how many times I've had to move due to this or that, getting evicted. So it's 23 times, which means my average throughout my entire life, the average time that I've spent in one place is like a year or two, or right around a year or two. It's no more than that. Now, here, people are like, oh, why do you live in a car, this and that. Dude, I'm like traumatized. Now, I'm the type where the trauma makes me like stronger and shit, but I have like, I have been trained through my life experience to not put my trust in anything but myself. So that includes landlords, that includes whatever. I want my own little vehicle that I have no matter what. I own this car, and no one can take it from me. And my stuff, I don't have to worry about losing everything anymore now that I have a car to live in. So, and this gives me the ability to be braver and be more honest. I can speak the truth. They can't take nothing from me. And here's the other thing. I've built up the skills throughout my life to where they can take everything from me, and I can still figure it out. I can go out and make money no matter what. You know what I mean? So this modern world has trained me to be the way I am. And when I'll get into arguments on Instagram with people and shit over politics. Sometimes they'll look at my page, they'll be like, oh, you live in a car, you're a joke, and this and that. I'm thinking to myself, bitch, you have no idea. Like, first of all, it's a choice. I could go rent a place right now, but I'm not, it's not even about being cheap. It's about, I'm tired of being forced out of places. So they can't force me out of here. You know what I mean? And when people try to insult me for it, I'm telling you, like, this is why I try not to respond to people, because I get so, I get very angry by people who, that insult me in ways that, it just makes me very angry. So I try not to engage with the people who make me angry. It doesn't make me feel good even when I start insulting them, and I'm really good at that. I'm really good at just cutting people down and tearing people apart, but I never feel good about it. And, it's like, you can only, so I don't want to sit here getting myself all riled up over the people who hurt my feelings on the internet. So I was thinking, I've had to move 23 times. You think that's normal? Here's the thing. I call myself Joey the Gypsy. I didn't choose this shit. I just adjusted to it, and I'm making the best of it. You know what I mean? I am a wanderer. I am a nomad. I'm a gypsy. You could call me a bum. You could call me whatever. But I'm doing what I got to do to be myself, really. I want to be able to speak truth. I don't want to be worried about, oh, if I say this, I'm going to lose my job. Dude, I ain't worried about none of that shit, because I've built a life to where I'm the boss around here. So, I got my own little kingdom. It's my car. This is my kingdom. I got a kingdom on wheels. But you know what? I don't answer to people. I answer to God. What's the saying? It's like, people answer to the king and the king answers to God. So yeah, this is my kingdom right here, my car. And eventually I'm going to buy a piece of land, and maybe, if who knows, I might buy a huge piece of land and try to start our own city-state, and we can build our own country, maybe one day. We'll see, who knows. But anyways, let's talk about getting evicted. So now, the first time I got evicted, here's the thing. I wasn't that stressed out, and I wasn't that scared. You know why? Because I knew I had done the best I could. I knew that I had played by these rigged rules that I knew they were rigged against me. I was still playing along, because what's the other option? The other option as far as I could figure out, was going out and hurting innocent people and taking their stuff. So I didn't, that, you know, and that whether you're doing that strong arm robbery or you're doing it scamming people or, so I didn't, that was the only way that I could figure out to actually get ahead. I didn't want to do that. I came real close, but I didn't want to do that. What happened was, when I was in Vegas and I'm broke and I hadn't come up with any street performance ideas or nothing yet, I was thinking to myself, I did everything I could legally. It's time for me to turn into a savage, and I'm going to start robbing people. And then when I went out that night with the intention of finding someone to rob, I thought to myself, if you're going to do this, you have to be ready to take people's lives, because if they try to fight you, you gotta hurt them, and you gotta be willing to go all the way, because if you're not willing to go all the way, you're just gonna get yourself killed. So it occurred to me, am I willing to take other people's lives so that I can have money? And the answer was no. I'm not willing to do that. I know that's against God's laws for me to do that, for me to be targeting innocent people. These people didn't do nothing to me. And so I realized that's not an option, because I'm not living that way. And it wasn't about fear. It was about not wanting to be evil, basically. And so I decided against that, and I went back to the apartment that night, and I had nothing to eat except fucking tap water. And I woke up the next day, and I came up with the, I'll go out on the street and I'll tell jokes I wrote for $1 a piece, and that's what I did. And thank God I made that decision, because if I didn't make that decision, I'd be sitting in jail right now, or I'd be dead. So the first time I got evicted, I thought to myself, I did everything I could. I played by the rules. I didn't do nothing nasty, nothing foul. I did the best I could, and this is where I landed. And I'm at peace with that, because God's got a plan, and I trust God. So I'm going to make the best of it. And at that point, once I lost everything, I'll never forget, it was April 5th. Was it 2008, the first time I got evicted? So what ended up happening was the economy was starting to go down. I was doing construction in Florida. There's no work around, but I had, at this time, I'm working like 5 different jobs. Hold on, I think the neighbor's trying to get my attention, but, well, I think she's trying to get Rob's attention, but Rob's not here, so I don't, yeah, I mean, if she comes over here, I'll tell her, but I'm in the middle of a video. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious when Rob's not here. You know what I mean? When he's here, he's outside. Rob is the mechanic. And so, I might have to edit this. Hold on. Yeah, I don't think Rob's here. Nah, the car ain't there.
I need a floor scraper.
I don't know where that would be, dude. I don't have nothing to do with over there.
I know it. He don't know either. Wait, I think there's one right here. Hold on. He's still feeding me cats.
Huh? All right, so I'm not even going to edit that out. So I was at peace with it. And what happened was the result of that. Now, let me read you these quotes. Okay, now here's a couple of quotes I stumbled into recently. And this is why these 2 quotes explain pretty well why I felt the way I felt. So I think Aristotle said this one. It said, "Here is a rule to remember in the future. When anything tempts you to feel bitter, don't think this is misfortune. Think to bear this worthily is good fortune." And so It's the truth. Now, whatever happens, if you handle it to the best of your abilities without being bitter and blaming everyone and being nasty and letting it turn you bitter and foul, it'll turn into good fortune. And I'm telling you that from experience. I've had lots of things go wrong in my life. I handled them well, and it turned out to make me smarter, stronger, wiser. It all made me a better person. I'm grateful for it all. Now here's another quote. I think this is from Marcus Aurelius, who he was one of the like best emperors of Rome, like one of the few people who was actually like a great leader. So it says, "The man who is truly good and wise will bear with dignity whatever fortune sends, and will always make the best of his circumstances." So that's how I feel to this day. Whatever happens, I'm gonna handle it to the best of my abilities, and I'm gonna take take responsibility for the parts that I played, and I'm not gonna let it turn me bitter or nasty or foul. I'm gonna do the best I can at all times. You know what I mean? And so there's been times in my life where I didn't know better and I did act a fool, but now I know better. And when you know better, you got to do better. You got to do the best you can. That's all God asks. And whatever you've done wrong in the past, you got to realize God forgives everything. He has to. It's I mean, so this is why I try to be forgiving, because I know God forgives me for my past regressions or whatever. So I try to spread that grace, because I know God's got it for me. So whatever you've done in your life, don't sit there dwelling on it. Look, what's in the past is in the past. We all make mistakes. You can't do nothing about it. If you feel so upset, you got to cry about it. Go ahead and cry. After you're done crying, you got to get back to living. You got to keep living, and you got to keep doing your best. So I understand sometimes things are difficult, but you also got to realize that no storm lasts forever, and this too shall pass. And if you handle it properly, you're going to end up grateful for it. So this is now, I hadn't heard these quotes at the time, but I was at peace with it, because I knew I had done the best I can, and I knew I was going to do the best I can moving forward. And what happened was, I got a lot braver. Once I lost everything, I got a lot braver. I realized you have nothing to lose, so what are you so afraid of? What is there? You already lost everything, including, my whole family, pretty much. So that's when I decided I'm going to try to do stand-up comedy, because I'm going to start aiming higher instead of aiming for just getting by in this rigged game, which it's not even possible anyways. So, it's really amazing to me. They've managed to socially engineer this society to literally reward the worst in people. Look at rappers. They make songs about killing each other and doing horrible things to each other, and they get millions and millions of dollars for it. They're being rewarded for spreading this, this poison throughout their own people. And there's one example. Look at actors. They're all pushing self-destructive political bullshit because they get to live in the lap of luxury for it. I mean, look at the USAID giving the media all this money to push all this poisonous bullshit on the people. You know what I mean? So, I forgot where I was even going with that one. But, so that was the first time I got evicted. I was at peace with it. And the truth is, I felt like I was being freed to a new beginning. Let me tell you something. Thank God I didn't... Had I not been evicted that time, I'd probably still be living in these little shithole apartments paying $2,000 a month at this point. I'd still be running uphill with no legs, just like I was back then. Except the only difference, I wouldn't have all this life experience. You know what I mean? So thank God I got evicted that first time. I couldn't imagine what my life would be like if I was still, God forbid, stuck in that one apartment. You know how bored with life I would be right now? Do you know, I'd be like, I would probably be on some sort of prescription meds to be able to stomach that after all these years, So I'm grateful for it. Now, the second time I got evicted was, let's see. So when I got evicted, I went to stay at my buddy Shane's house, and that really wasn't going to work out. So I ended up going to Vegas. So I don't know. Now, I had already been forced to move multiple times at this point, just due to the rent going up every time I signed a lease, and my pay not going up. So picking up everything and moving was nothing new to me. What's truly amazing to me is I still have stuff now that I had back, back when. I've got, one of the things I still have is this little bear that, is it over here? Or, I don't know where it is, but it's in here somewhere. It's this little marble bear that my mother had in our house when I was a kid, and I think to myself, how the hell did this thing survive all these years? You know what I mean? I can't find it right now. It's around here somewhere, but I call it Ursus. Ursus is, the Neanderthals worshipped a cave bear named Ursus. He was a god, and so I call my little marble bear Ursus. So anyways, but yeah, I've still got like drawing stuff from when I was a kid. I think to myself, this shit has traveled with me from Florida to Vegas to New York to the street in New York to somehow I've still got some of this stuff. I'm like, how that's amazing to me that I've maintained any of it. But so now the second time I got evicted, I guess that would be the dungeon. So I left Shane's house and I went to stay with my buddy Drew in Vegas. Ended up leaving there. The second lease we had in Vegas was in my name, but I left the apartment and went back to New York, and then Drew got evicted under my name. Which, it is what it is. You know what I mean? I can't complain. Drew let me stay with him for free when I couldn't afford the rent, you know what I mean? So he got an eviction on my name. Although I gotta say, I've looked it up recently, and there's no evictions on my record, so there must be like a statute of limitations on it or something. And so I guess you could say I got evicted in Vegas, but I left there, and then like 9 months later, Drew got evicted under my name, but whatever. So then I went to New York. I stayed at my uncle's house for a couple months. Then I went and rented an apartment in Valley Stream, right outside of Queens. I was like on Hook Creek Boulevard, right around, not a nice part of Queens. But anyways, so I stayed there for a while. And then that's when I quit my job and ended up on the street. You could say I got evicted. I left voluntarily. It was an illegal apartment. I could have stayed there they couldn't kick me out. But I didn't want to do the landlord like that. You know what I mean? I understand it's an illegal apartment, but that doesn't give me the right to just squat in her house. So I left that apartment. Mechanics here now. So you could say it was an eviction. Watch my Why I Was Homeless videos if you want the details. So then I ended up getting hooked up with an apartment in the Bronx through like the homeless outreach people. They got me a room in the Bronx for cheap. It was like $300-400 a month. Shitty part of the Bronx and all that. But anyways, I ended up leaving there voluntarily. You could call it an eviction. Here's the thing, I stopped paying rent because they put this roommate in there with me, that just this dude that keeps stealing from me, this thug from jail in New York, thinking he's super thug, and so he kept stealing things from me, and me and him ended up starting to get into fights, and then he pulls a knife on me, and I'm thinking to myself, if I stay here, either he's gonna get his life taken or I'm gonna get my life taken, and it wasn't gonna be me. So here's my options. I can leave and go back out on the street, or I could take this dude's life and go to jail for the rest of my life. So I left and went out on the street, and so that's what I did. Now you could call it an eviction, but I left there voluntarily. Anyways, so my point here is, if you're facing eviction, don't be scared. Here's the thing. Don't sit there feeling sorry for yourself. Like I said, if you gotta cry, and then you gotta keep living. You gotta do the best you can. Don't worry about the past. We all make mistakes. Here's the mistake that I see people making. They ignore all the mistakes they made that led to this position. Now, I understand shit happens, and a lot of times in the modern world, it's not even your fault, but partially, you got to at least accept some responsibility, because here's the thing. If you can't face your mistakes and take the responsibility of the mistakes you made, then you can't change nothing. If everything is not your fault, then you have no control. And in my opinion, that's a choice you're making. You got to figure out, what did I do wrong here? And sometimes what you did wrong was you trusted the wrong people, or you were too nice to these people. You know what I mean? So you got to figure out what part you played in it. You know what I mean? And you got to face that and think to yourself, how do I not do that in the future? So there's absolutely no point in going through life blaming everyone else, because it gets you nowhere. You got to find a way to take responsibility, because that's the only way you can get control. So if you live your life thinking you have no control and no responsibility, you're just going to get thrown around like a leaf in the wind. You know what I mean? You gotta figure out what part you played and what mistakes you made, and then you gotta, moving forward, you gotta learn from your mistakes, and you don't keep repeating them. You know what I mean? So and here's the other thing you gotta realize. Just because you're losing your place or whatever, let's say worst case scenario, you gotta be homeless. Here's an important thing you gotta realize. It can be an adventure if you make it that way. It doesn't have to be this devastating living in the gutter and eating trash. You'll adjust to it. If you allow yourself, you can adjust to anything. And I mean anything. Anything becomes normal. Being homeless was so normal to me. I used to sleep on the sidewalk like a baby. People couldn't even believe it. They were like, this dude sleeps like he's in a friggin' mansion. He sleeps like right on the sidewalk, in the rain, in the snow. And then I was at peace with myself. I knew that I had made the best of the circumstances all throughout my life. I knew I didn't go out hurting people and robbing people and lying and cheating and stealing. I didn't do none of that. So I was at peace with it. I used to sleep like a baby, and I wasn't concerned about nothing. I had my little security measures in place. If someone tried to steal something, it would pull on a string and wake me up, or it would pull on another string and rattle some shit that would wake me up. I had like sound alarms and shit around. So I slept like a baby. I was good. I wasn't scared. I wasn't concerned. And you know what I mean? So here's the thing. If Conan the Barbarian was homeless his whole life, and me personally, I'd rather be more like Conan the Barbarian than some office worker, sheep, soft motherfucker taking orders from some other soft motherfucker. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not trying to insult people who have jobs and all that. I'm talking about me personally. Like, they say, what would Jesus do? I think to myself, what would Conan the Barbarian do? So, do you think Conan the Barbarian would go grab some office job and cling to some apartment? No, he wouldn't. So, if you're facing homelessness, think of it in terms of that. It's an adventure. It's going to be cool. Look, read The Alchemist, a great book. In The Alchemist, the kid, he's a shepherd. He has a dream. He's a shepherd herding sheep. He's sleeping in an empty church one night. It's an abandoned church with the roof collapsed. And it's in Spain in, like, I don't know, I don't know what year the book takes place in, but it's a long time ago, I think. But so he sleeps one night in the church, and he has a dream about a treasure in Egypt, and he really believes that there's a treasure in Egypt. He's like, what? It's just a dream, but for some reason I feel in the deepest part of my heart that it's really there. And he's like, he decides to sell all his sheep and to go after this treasure in Egypt. And he goes and sells his sheep, and then he crosses from Spain to Africa. He's trying to get to Egypt. His first day in Africa, he loses all his money. He just sold his whole life in Spain. And his first day in Africa, he's a naive, he don't know shit. He trusts everyone. Some tour guide is like, he's like, I got to get to Egypt. The tour guide is like, I'll get you there. How much money you got? And the kid pulls out all his money. He's counting it. The tour guide just like snatches it. He's like, this'll get us there. Let me get us some supplies. Come with me. And the kid's like, he doesn't want to be rude. He's from the country. He doesn't understand city folk. You know what I mean? City people are ruthless. And so he don't get it. And he's like, man, this don't feel right, but I don't want to be like rude. Give me my money back. I need to get to Egypt. But he's like, I'm going to keep my eye on this dude. And they're walking through this crowded market. And a sword catches the kid's eye in this shop. He's looking at the sword. He's thinking to himself, man, when I find my treasure, I'm coming back here and I'm buying that sword. That's a badass sword. And then he looks up, and then the tour guide is gone with all his money. Now the kid is in a foreign country. He has no money. He has no sheep. He just flushed his whole life down the toilet, and he's in a state of shock. And the book just gets better from there. So read the book. It's The Alchemist, written by Paulo Coelho. And basically, I'll give you the gist of it right now. You should read the book. But an alchemist, their goal is to learn how to chemically change any metal into gold, because the theory is that gold is the highest evolution of metal. So if you can force it through the evolution, you can turn any metal into gold. Now, it's really a metaphor. There are people who believe this is possible, and I don't know what to believe. I'm not, I've never experimented with it, but I can tell you this much: a person can be forced through evolution and become gold. So really the book is about taking a person who feels like lead and turning them into where they feel like gold, no matter what the external circumstances are. And if you play your cards right, and you keep the right attitude and you keep the right state of mind, you will be gold. You know what I mean? So read the book. It's a great book, The Alchemist. I've read it multiple times. I'll probably read it again soon because I'm due for a reread of it. It's that important, the book. So, anyways, that video went quick. Hopefully I got my points across. Hopefully, here's the other thing. If you're going to be homeless, try to get a vehicle to live in, because it's 1,000 times easier than just living on the street. If you can't get a vehicle to live in, get a bicycle, because it's going to make traveling around 1,000 times easier. Here's the cheapest setup that is going to be the best for you. If you ain't got a lot of money, you ain't got a lot of resources, get yourself a bicycle. Get yourself one of those laundry grocery carts. It's got like 2 wheels and it stands kind of upright, and figure out a way to attach it to the back of your bike, and now you've got a little mobile home to work at it, and go out adventuring just like Conan the Barbarian. Maybe you'll be the first one to ride your bike from fucking Alaska to fucking Chile. Who knows? You're free now. You ain't got nothing holding you down. You ain't got nothing to be afraid of. You lost everything. So go out there and have some adventures, and you know what I mean? Be like the kid in The Alchemist. Anyways, or be like Conan the Barbarian. So, anyways, I guess that's the end of this one. I appreciate y'all. I gotta go do the Patreon video. And yeah, so I'll respond to the Patreon comments tomorrow while I'm drinking my coffee in the morning. So appreciate y'all. Thanks for the subs. Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the tips. Thanks for the Patreon members especially. Thanks for the channel members especially. And if you want a response to your comment, try to get it within the first 30. And I guess that's about it. And you know what? No matter what happens, keep your spine straight and keep your chin in the air, and take it all with dignity, and handle it to the best of your abilities, and you're gonna be all right. You know what I mean? Just because you're not clinging to a job and an apartment doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It's actually the beginning of a whole new adventure. So I guess that's the end of this one. I appreciate y'all. If you need I got tips for the homeless in my videos, how to make money, what to carry, this and that. So appreciate y'all, and I'll see you on the next one. Everybody have a good one.